All right, so the contest prep season is heating up, and so many of you are getting ready for shows. You're excited. You want to get up there on the stage, under the lights, sparkly suit, hair, everything did, and your body looking great, right? Well, guess what? The road to doing this the safe and healthy way is a tough one. Because the truth of the matter is that bodybuilding is not natural to anything that we do as humans. I always joke with my clients that you want that six pack, but your body just wants to survive, honey. That's why when you really get into the throes of prep, you get hungry, the cravings start, you're tired, it's hard to focus, and sometimes you barely have the energy to do all of the work that you have to do. And to be honest with you, it's really easy to go to extremes when it comes to getting ready for a show. And in many ways, you have to go to extremes to get as lean as the judges want to see on stage and what they're rewarding. But even despite that, there are some things that you need to absolutely not be doing and mistakes that you need to avoid in order to have a successful contest prep and not ruin your body in the process. And that's what we're going to talk about on this next episode of Redefining Bodybuilding. I always feel like when I'm taking on new clients in contest prep, I always have to give them a caveat. You know, back in the day, it was a really big thing to be able to say that you can eat a ton of calories, you can do only 2 seconds of cardio and still get super lean and ripped and shredded and big. And it's interesting because that same kind of narrative seems to be out there where you have some people who try to boast about doing the least amount of things, the least possible amount of working out and eating the most amount of food that they can while still looking excessively ripped and shredded to the bone while holding muscle. And I'm going to tell you right now, guys, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but a lot of those folks who are able to do that are on some kind of stack of fantastic drugs, honey. And I know for my audience, many of you do not want that. You want to compete as naturally as you can. And I say that because I think there comes a point where you do have to ask yourself what lines you're willing to cross. And I always say, draw your lines in the sand and don't cross them. So realistically speaking, I want to talk about the mistakes that you can avoid in order to have a safe and healthy contest prep that's still going to make you look lean and ready to step on that stage and win some trophies. The first thing that I see right out the gate is that so many competitors, especially newer competitors, don't allow themselves enough time to prep for a show. Here's the thing. For most of you, a 12-week prep isn't enough. You're going to need about 16 weeks. You might need about 20 weeks because you want to be able to diet in a way that helps you to keep as much muscle on as you lose fat. And the more time you give yourself to be able to do that, the better you're going to be able to have that successful result in the end. In fact, for my first-time competitors, one of the things I really appreciate is when someone comes to me when they have about 6 months to a year from the show that they would like to do, or at least from the month or the season that they'd like to compete. Let's say I have a client who's going to have like a big birthday coming up and her birthday is in April of this year. If this is her first time ever competing, I would really appreciate if she contacts me anywhere between 6 months to a year before her birthday so we can sit down and really map out a complete roadmap that makes sense when it comes to preparation and what I call pre-prep and then swinging into that contest prep. Because let's face it, a lot of you do not have the structure that's needed to step out on a stage right away, right out the gate into a prep. And you want to do well. You want to win some trophies. You want to be able to at least stand up there and be competitive. For so many of you, that might mean that you have to actually build some muscle before getting onto the stage. Or for others of you, that might mean that you have to lose weight first, get your body fat down to a level that makes sense to start a contest prep, and then go into the rigors of that preparation. So allowing yourself enough time to be able to do that in a way that makes sense is what makes sense at the end of the day. And when you plan out something in that amount of time for your first time out, let's say, if you're planning out, I'm going to compete for the first time within 6 months to a year, you get to go into building phases, you get to go into fat loss phases, you get to go into maintenance phases and really have a chance to truly build the body because this is bodybuilding. not rush to get on stage as many times as you can to ruin your body hormonally because you did the wrong thing during prep. I mean, that's not the game that we're in. For those of you who are a little bit more seasoned, maybe you've done 1 or 2 shows already, or you've done a bevy of shows that are under your belt, you know that you can allow yourself a little bit more of a leeway when it comes to taking that prep. So for those of you who are more seasoned, a 16-week prep is exactly what you need. But when you're in that off season, you've got to go ahead and make sure you time yourself. So that way, when you're ready to swing into that 16-week prep, you don't have to move heaven and earth to get ready for the show. That's what's really most important. Now, before we continue this conversation, I want to thank you so much for joining me. My name is Roxy Beckles. I'm an IFBB pro who's had the absolute privilege of competing in the Olympia in women's physique. So I know a little thing or two about contest prep. So if you aren't already, honey, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and smash the like button as well on YouTube. And if you're listening now on Spotify, make sure that you go ahead and you give me a follow. Thinking about stepping on stage for the first time? Well, go ahead and make sure that you get my contest prep crash course. It's totally free. I want to go ahead and reveal to you exactly what it is that you need to do to look your absolute best, even if this is your first time ever stepping on a stage. Scan the QR code that you see right there on your screen to go ahead and get your hands on your free copy right now. If you're looking to go ahead and step on a stage and you'd like to work with me, honey, guess what? It's your lucky day because your girl is taking on some new clients. I got a couple of spots open for those who are looking to go ahead and get ready for a contest prep. Whether you are a year out, 6 months out, 3 or 4 months out, or wherever you are in this journey, let's go ahead and get something started and just do it in a way that's smarter, healthier, and enjoyable because you're doing this because it looks like fun, right? And it's a bucket list thing that you want to go ahead and achieve. So go ahead and make sure that you scan the QR code that you see right here on your screen to set up your free Clarity call. Let's go ahead and jump back into this conversation, which leads into the next thing, the intensity of your workouts. Look, don't get me wrong. You're going to be training with a lot of volume during prep. And I know when I'm talking about women building muscle and losing weight and doing things for a more health perspective versus a competition, I'm always saying, you don't need to be in the gym every day. You need to give yourself rest days. But in contest prep, you don't necessarily have that luxury. Now, if you're starting 16 to 20 weeks out, having a 5-day-a-week training program is perfect. Doing all your workouts in one session, cardio and training in one session, perfect. But the further along you go and the more you have to push your body to get super lean, the more you have to increase the volume of what you're doing. The more you're going to have to go ahead and do 2-a-day sessions. The more you're going to go ahead and have maybe just 1 day of rest a week. And when you're really pushing into the final 2 to 3 weeks of the show, you might be in the gym every single day, 7 days a week. But realize how that time period of intensity is short. Now, the mistake that I see are competitors doing that right out the gate. So you're already doing an hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours of cardio at like 12 weeks out. Where do you go from there? And if you're already training 6-7 days a week and you still have a whole bunch of prepping left, where do you go from there? And this is why you see so many women end up with hormonal issues with the thyroid, adrenals, and more after prep and start gaining weight copious amount of weight very rapidly because they put themselves in too much of an extreme when it comes to the actual prep itself. This goes back to that first point, giving yourself enough time so that way you can plan things in a way that makes sense. And therefore, you don't have to move heaven and earth and come hell or high water to get ready for your show. Now, the third thing that you have to be careful of, and one of the most critical mistakes that a lot of folks make when it comes to contest prep, is that they're going into these crazy starvation diets. Again, contest prep and bodybuilding is an extreme, but you don't have to go to deadly lengths in order to get the results that you want. You need to be in a caloric deficit, period. But reducing your diet down to just eating tilapia and asparagus or broccoli and some brown rice every single day, several times a day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, that's not it. You need to be able to fuel yourself to train hard and to train heavy, because training heavy is actually a part of keeping muscle on in the face of fat loss. And if you're eating like a rabbit and you're just eating the same bland foods every day because some coach told you to do this, that's the surefire way to lose muscle, to ruin your body, to mess up your hormones, and to be completely FUBAR when the show is over, and to be completely screwed up when the show is over. Now, this is why, again, I really suggest clients to work with me when they want to come to me for contest prep. I pretty much almost hate taking someone on at the time that they want to start a prep. And very rarely will I do that. That person really has to be someone who's ready to go when it comes to taking on someone at 16 weeks out or even 12 weeks out. I have some people come to me for that. And I've turned folks away because I knew that to get them to that end result, I would have to push them to extremes that would probably not be very good as far as the rebound that they might see after a show. I blatantly told folks, look, you're going to need more time if you want to do this the smart way. The critical mistake that I see people doing over and over is starving themselves right out the gate. And so for me, I really encourage my clients to take a few months to reverse diet before we go ahead and prep. So if we have 3 to 6 months before we even start that prep, we have enough time to really prime the metabolism, to prime the body. We have a chance to go ahead and take a look at what they're eating at the moment that we start, and then start to reverse diet them. First getting them to maintenance, and then getting them to a caloric surplus where we can put on muscle for a little bit. Oftentimes, I really prefer my clients to be eating anywhere upwards of 2,500 calories per day. I've even had clients who are eating about 3,000 calories a day while we were in off season. We've been able to really change their bodies and help them to build muscle. And then in the aftermath, we would come down, bring their calories down to about maintenance, stick there for a little while, and then go into the contest prep. Starting your contest prep diet at around 2,800, 2,500 calories a day is so much better than starting it at about 1,800 or 1,600 calories a day. I've seen all kind of crazy things. If you're doing that at 16 weeks out, where do you think you're going to be able to be by the time you get to the end of the prep? These are those people who end up eating 900, 800 calories a day, wondering why they look flat, stringy, their muscles don't pop, they're tired, their bodies stop responding because you didn't set up that diet properly. Starving yourself is not the way. Now, when I've been able to start a client at 2,500 calories a day, 2,800 calories a day, depending on their stature, we've got a lot more wiggle room there, and they're still losing fat on that higher caloric amount. So by the time we get to 8 weeks out, we're still sitting up around 1,800 calories. By the time we get to about 6 weeks out, we may be around 1,600 or so calories, depending on the person. I mean, these are not, numbers that are set in stone, but I'm just showing you how much more wiggle room you have when you allow yourself enough time to diet and you do it the smart way. The other thing that I would stress about diet as well with my clients is that I do allow food variety. We have a food substitution calculator that all of my clients have access to, so they can swap things out and still stay within the caloric amount, still stay within the macros that's on their plan, but they don't have to be eating tilapia every day. If they want salmon, they can have it. If they want chicken breast, they can have it. If they want anything else, they can swap it out. And I think that psychologically helps my clients to be able to stick to the diets longer. I used to be one who would give cheat meals every single week with clients, but now that the divisions are getting a lot harder, a lot leaner, even in the natural orgs, I like to curtail cheat meals until the body actually needs it. And I'll go into another video on how I determine that. But just that ability to swap things out helps my clients so much more mentally when it comes to sticking to their plan. They don't feel like it's as restrictive as it actually is. So food variety and being smart about how much of a deficit you're starting with is one of the most crucial keys that you need to consider when you're starting up a contest prep. And the fourth crucial mistake that I see a lot of competitors make is that they don't allow enough time to work on posing. Look, y'all, you could be in the gym all day, every day. You could be following your diet and doing all that stuff. But when you get up on that stage, nobody cares how you prepped. No one cares how healthy it was. No one cares how detrimental it was. No one cares what stack of fantastic steroids you're on. No one cares if you're all natural. What they do care is, are you in condition? Do you have the proper muscularity and shape that your division calls for? And do you know what you're doing when you're posing? And I see so many competitors throw themselves out of the running because they don't know how to pose. Listen, at the end of the day, bodybuilding is an art. It's a performing art. It's a science. It's entertainment. It's everything, right? And you got to give yourself that winning edge. And the winning edge is on how you present the body. You spent all of these weeks cutting up, building muscle, doing all this stuff. And then you get on stage looking absolutely insane because you don't know how to properly pose and present that body in the way that wins trophies. So you need to be practicing all the time. Okay. With my competitors, I tell them, we'll have our posing sessions, but they need to be posing every single day outside of those sessions. They need to be putting in the work. They need to go ahead, put those heels on if they're in one of the divisions that requires heels. If they're bodybuilding or women's physique, honey, you better go ahead and work on your mandatory. Constantly working on your posing every single day, and not just like quick sessions. Carve out 15, 20 minutes or so to work specifically on your posing. Hold the poses for some time, because what you guys don't realize is that being under those hot lights is really exhausting. And trying to flex for dear life when your body is completely depleted on stage is hard as all get up. But the more you practice it leading into the show, it's like working on muscular endurance, the better you'll be able to pose on stage, look poised, look like a pro. I really pride myself on taking brand new clients and making them look incredible, making them look like they know what they're doing on that stage. And you can do that too, but you just have to make sure that you are posing all the time. So grab those shoes, honey. Look, let me tell you something. This stuff is science, but it ain't rocket science. And if you know what you're doing, especially if you're working with a coach that knows what they're doing, then being able to go out on stage and have a good time and to present your best, that is what the aim is. You can't control what the judges are going to do. You can't control which way the show is going to go. You can't control who you're going to be standing next to. But what you can control is knowing that when you're up there on that stage, that you crossed all of your T's, you dotted all your I's, and you stood up and presented the absolute best that you could in that moment. You did everything that you did. You left no stone unturned. And if you go ahead and put this advice into action, honey, you're going to be able to say exactly that. Thank you so much for joining. Look, if you are looking to step on stage and you want to do it the smart and healthy way, make sure that you go ahead and check out this playlist right over here, where I will break down for you, honey, what you need to think about to step on stage and look like a pro, even if it's your first time ever. I'll see you over there.